Ladies and gentlemen, the following episode is scheduled for one fall. Coming down the aisle are your hosts of In The Kliq, Baby Huey and BrianTronic.
What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, and joining me once again is my tag team partner, BrianTronic. How's it going, man?
It's going great, Huey. It feels good to be back. I'm feeling much better. I was a little sick this past week.
But not COVID, right?
No, not COVID, no.
Have you noticed that, though? That's like the new norm now. When you say you're sick, the immediate reaction I feel for most people is like, well, is it COVID or not? You know what I mean? Like, that's like the answer.
And then, like, that's the first thing you test yourself for, right? Like, you got to go get a test. You got to, let me take a COVID test. Any sniffles or cough or sneezing, it's like instant. Let me get a COVID test real quick and let me make sure that I don't have COVID, because then that really changes everything, right? Like, I mean, if you have a stuffy nose, I know they say stay inside, but, you know, if you need to go to the store or grab some food or something, you can still do that. But if you have COVID, it's like, got to stay in the house now.
Yeah, no, that's the trippy thing is it's like, in the last couple years, how we perceive what just a cold is versus a flu versus now COVID. It's like different degrees of being sick now. So I'm with you. It's very confusing. It's made people very paranoid as far as, you know, oh, you're sick, stay away from me. But you're right. It's like our gut reaction right now is if you're feeling sick, go get a COVID test. And so, which is the right thing to do, obviously. You know, we want to take care of each other and be smart out there. But it's I wonder how long this will last for. Is this going to be the new norm for forever moving forward, or for a few more years? But I feel like anytime someone says they're sick, everyone else is like, stay away from me. Well, back in the day, like 2-3 years ago, if you were sick, you're like, oh, okay, you know, cover yourself, whatever, but it's okay to be in the same room.
How sick are you? Oh, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I'll stand next to you, or you know, whatever. But now, if you mention you just got like, as you said, little sniffles or something, they're like, get away from me, like hi, like quarantine yourself, and so it's just. I'm with you. It's just it is very much a still scary place, and that's the other thing too. I do want to stress, I think a lot of people forget, COVID is still a thing out there. So please be safe. Take care of each other, and if you're feeling ill, take care of yourself. Get some rest, all that good stuff. But take COVID tests if you need to, all that stuff. But I'm with you. Like I said, we have people at work who are like feeling sick, and we're like, stay away. So, but like I said, who knows how long this will go for, how long we're going to be in that. But here we are back at it for another episode of In The Kliq. Thank you once again, Kliqsters, for tuning in and listening to us wherever you get your podcasts at. And please remember to subscribe where we get your audio at. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, a bunch of other platforms as well. And then, Brian, I've been meaning to look this up. I know we use Anchor to host our podcast, and I've did a little digging on Anchor, and I know they've kind of updated some of the features, and it's like, I can submit to more podcast platforms. Like I think, was it Amazon and a couple other places? So,
nice.
So I gotta, have some time to sit down and make sure we're on as many platforms, depending, which app you like using. And if you're also listening to us on YouTube, thank you. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment as well. Please share the podcast. Follow us on social media at In The Kliq, and email us intthekliq@gmail.com. But yes, so Brian, here we are. We're recording on a Monday night after tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. So this episode, it's going to be another combo episode where we're going to talk about Survivor Series WarGames and the fallout from this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. So a lot to get into. Let's jump right into it. First things first, Survivor Series WarGames. First time ever, WarGames is on the main roster for a WWE pay-per-view, or premium live event. And very exciting. Brian, you and I were talking before the show. We were just so hyped up for it. And it looks like we're not alone. I mean, I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but there was a press conference after Survivor Series. Triple H said this was the most successful Survivor Series ever for WWE. The highest grossing.
Yep.
biggest attending one. Was that
biggest gate? I think
biggest gate and most watched as well. Which I'm shocked because of like I was thinking like nothing in the Attitude Era did bigger or no pay-per-view system.
I'm shocked they even knew that number.
The streaming number. Yeah, is that like number of people watching on Peacock? Like that number seemed very fast that they had that result, but. Hey man, there's some tech people probably know those data much better than we do, so I'll take their word for it. So, but yeah, those Survivor Series WarGames, huge success. Super happy that we got to see WarGames, like I said, on the main roster. For the last few years, we've seen it on NXT, but now that Triple H is in charge of creative for all WWE, he's able to bring his baby, his match that he's a big fan of to the main roster. So. We'll start, Brian, kind of big, just our overall kind of thoughts. So what'd you think of, the first ever WarGames on the main roster?
I thought it was good. I thought one thing I noticed was there wasn't very many matches, and we missed the traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches. So that was different. I think everything about it was perfect. The only thing I think that was missing was the stage, man. The stage, it just didn't feel different. Like it just felt like a big special episode of Monday Night Raw. With 2 rings and a cage, right? At first, I'm saying, going off the look of it, I wish they could have tweaked the stage just a little bit. I know some people say things like, "Oh, it should have been a big tank for a stage." I'm not saying that, but even just to, they could have had, like in bunkers or like in war, those nets. They have those nets and stuff. They could have had a couple of nets or something like hanging off the stage or just something to give that war feel, right? Yeah. I know that they still incorporated the blue and red lighting to the graphics as well, so that kind of threw me off. But as far as the show quality overall, I thought it was good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man, as far as I do wish WWE, and who knows if that's something in Triple H's future plans. I know everyone expects all these changes right now here instantly, but I'm sure a lot of stuff takes time to play out and develop and get things ready. So, but with that being said, I know a lot of people want to see custom sets for the individual pay-per-view, so it really personalizes the experience, like what you just said. So I'm with you. It would have been cool if we had a custom set for Survivor Series WarGames, like a war environment setting built on that stage instead of just that big jumbo screen, which is what they've been using for since last July. So over almost a year and a half ago when they started going back on the road again, post Thunderdome. But yeah, it like that LED screen looks amazing. Like visually, you and I have seen it in person. It's huge and it's awesome, and it displays like the graphics amazing. But yet at the same time, it does feel kind of soulless because it's just a TV screen. There's nothing else to really look at other than when a wrestler's walking out, it's got the big visual of their name and graphics on screen. But there's not much else to look at, and it's after a while, it's like it's so plain looking. So yeah, I'm with you.
I will say, a lot of the graphics have been. Looks like they've gotten an upgrade. Like I know, excuse me. The first time we, I think this is the first time we saw the Bloodline have their own, like graphic on the jumbotron, and it was like cycling through like the L and line. Was like a big, it kept rotating pictures of everyone in the Bloodline, the Usos and Solo and Roman. And I thought that was really, really cool. And Kevin Owens, obviously with his video package or with his graphic, just different scenes of him like yelling and stuff like that. Like, so some people have just the name and a graphic, and then some people have like something really cool going on, right? And I think I hope at least if they're going to keep just the giant screens, we'll see more. Because I feel like, man, they could do a whole lot more. If they're just going to do the screens, they can do like make it a lot more interesting, something more for us to look at. From obviously for us at TV watching, they give us the freaking the Fox Sports football thing, like the little 3D things that pop up on it. Yeah. They give us stuff like that for TV, but for the people in the arena, you want to see just a little bit more, Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the 3D graphics that pop out and stuff. Yeah, we're watching at home. Yeah, we see that, like the bloodline. It's like the tree sticking out and stuff. But I'm with you as far as, like you have this huge, beautiful screen, bright, amazing colors. Visually, it's awesome to look at. But yeah, there's not a lot there visually as at the same time, like, objects and stuff. So hopefully, they'll make some more custom sets. But I'm sure they're like, hey, we spent a lot of money on this huge screen. We want to maximize our use out of it. Yeah. So maybe down the road when enough time has passed, they can justify, okay, let's freshen things up and maybe go to custom sets, or maybe get custom sets for pay-per-views only. Keep Raw or SmackDown the screen. I don't know. Me personally, I wish each show get individual sets and really separates the two. If you're going to keep it as two separate brands, two separate rosters, but that's a whole nother discussion. If and when the draft happens, we can get into. But yeah, so like I said, super happy. I was so amped up just because, like I said, see WarGames on the main roster. I really liked the build for each the men's and women's WarGames. As Triple H said a few months ago, it was going to be storyline driven, which it was. And I thought they did a great job leading up to it. And as far as though, I will say a couple things though with the setup. This WarGames, the WWE version of WarGames is different than like the original WarGames from the NWA and WCW, which, by the way, I do want to shout out at the start of the show, Michael Cole and Corey Graves. I love them standing in front of the cage, the WarGames cage. Very much.
That was so good.
I love that because it just sets the tone. Like, here we are live in the arena. We got the WarGames cage right behind us, about to get started. My brother was telling me it kind of reminds him like in boxing when the commentators stand in front of the ring before the matches start, and then they go sit at the table and do the play-by-play. So it just kind of gets you amped up and paints the picture. And so I love the kind of the first thing out of Michael Cole's mouth that said, here we are, WarGames. I'm just paraphrasing here, but a match that was invented, created by Dusty Rhodes for the NWA and Jim Crockett Productions, specifically. He said for Jim Crockett Productions back in 1987. So I was like, oh my God, he had now acknowledged the history right there that, it started with the NWA and then went over to, WCW. And then, obviously WWE owns the rights now by buying out WCW back in the day. So it was just cool to acknowledge the history. I love that stuff. And I do say real quick, for the Kliqsters out there, if you have a chance, go to Peacock or the WWE Network and do yourself a favor and watch some of the old school original WarGames matches. If you have a chance, watch the very first WarGames match between the Four Horsemen and Dusty Rhodes and the Road Warriors. That was awesome. So that was Great American Bash 1987. If you look on Peacock under Great American Bash, that one, 1987, is not actually listed. You have to go to the best of section of Peacock, and it's the best of WarGames, and that match is actually under that section, which is kind of weird. So it took me a while to find it. Also, arguably probably the two best WarGames matches of all time was from WCW's Wrestle War 1991 and 1992. The 91 one was the Four Horsemen versus oh my God, I'm totally it was Road Warriors as well. What was it, Road Warriors? Oh my God, I'm totally blanking right now. It's gonna bug me if I don't look it up. But the 92 one, which is arguably probably the best one ever, it was Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance, which is amazing. But yeah, it's like I said, I watched all those over Thanksgiving weekend. let's see. Yeah, Four Horsemen versus Sting, Brian Pillman, and the Steiner Brothers. That's right. That was the 91 Wrestle War. So yeah, I watched all three of those matches. Amazing. Very gritty, dirty, intense. They had the cage ceiling on there, or even the roof on there. So different than the WWE version where they have no roof on theirs. But yeah, no, like I say, it was a great show. Watching all those again, just for the nostalgia and just see the history. And then Brian, you and I were talking, it evolved with WCW and became a regular fixture on the Fall Brawl pay-per-views back in the day. I remember watching those. I love Fall Brawl. I know the 90s, the mid to late 90s, some of those War Games matches were, at the time I really enjoyed them as a kid, but now I know a lot of people kind of, criticize them a lot, and some were saying not as good as others. And I know if you go back and watch them, I could see why. But yeah, you remember all those War Games.
Definitely. I feel like excuse me. I feel like the NWO versus WCW Fall Brawl War Games was good because of the storyline, right? Like, and the story of Sting, like, I feel like it really, that is what really catapulted the next however many years, I think a year or two. The story is, whose side is Sting really on? Is he with WCW or is he with the NWO? I know we got the bogus Sting coming in to help Team NWO.
I mean, that launched the Crow version of Sting.
Sting coming in cleaning, the real Sting coming in cleaning house, and then telling Luger to stick it, and then he leaves, and you got Luger crawling, and he's like, "Stinger, come back!"
I mean, that whole storyline for the next year to Starrcade the following year with Hogan and
just
stuff.
So much drama, and then even the one where I believe it was the year after with the Horsemen and NWO, and that was when Hennig had turned his back on the Horsemen, and then they smashed Flair's head with the. Yep. I mean, it was just so dramatic, right? Yeah. So that, I mean, as a kid, those War Games matches were like, oh my God, the NWO, I hate them so much.
But the problem was, now, I mean, at the time, it was like, oh my God, Kurt Hennig bashed Ric Flair's head in with the cage door. But then again, because Kurt Hennig turned on them and joined NWO, but at that point, I think he became the 12th or 13th member of the NWO. So it was like, dude, come on, like the NWO at that point was really starting to jump the shark. Like looking back on it now, it's like NWO. I mean, that's a whole other podcast. Like NWO should not have gotten more larger than like 6 members, if that. I mean, it just kept it Hogan, Hall, Nash, 6-Pac.
They had Giant.
Yeah, I mean, Ted DiBiase funded the team. I mean, but yeah, it shouldn't have got more than like 4 or 5 maybe at most. So
they were gone, man.
Yeah. So anyway, like, sorry, not to go on this tangent, but yes, War Games has always meant a lot to me. Like I said, growing up in the 90s, I watched all those Fall Brawl War Games pay-per-views and stuff, and so yeah, the whole concept is great. And then when
we should do like an annual watch along. Every time War Games comes around, we should do an annual watch along of
like a retro.
Yeah, just like
I would love to. Like, I mean, well, we could definitely plan for Royal Rumble as an opportunity for that. I'm all for like anytime there's like a big pay-per-view and that has like a long lineage and history, do like watch-alongs of retro shows and stuff like that. Yeah. I definitely want to start using Twitch more. I see the power and how popular it is. I want to get on that. But yeah, so like we said, when War Games came over to NXT, I was super excited. And at first I was like, there's no roof on it. But now I see why it's cool. You can do more high spots and high flying. And while I like the idea of a roof because it's like really you're in a cage, you can't go anywhere. Still, War Games, it's not like a traditional cage match where escaping helps you win. Right. I guess in WWE's rules, I know AEW doesn't do that, but you can't. There's no point in trying to escape because that's not the point. That's not how you win. So I guess it's okay to keep the roof off, but I will say, like, visually though, I noticed like this show was really well lit. You saw how much like lighting was on the cage, how bright everything felt. Now, at first I saw that and I was like, whoa. I thought that's cool. I guess if we're watching on TV, you can see everything nice and clear, especially through all the cages. And then even for people in the arena, you know, I'm sure it's tough to watch a cage match in person because you're trying to watch through the actual cage, the fencing. Us at home, you know, we have the luxury of a cameraman inside the cage match to film it all, so they can cut to that and we can see what's going on clearly. But if you're in the arena, you know, it's kind of tough to watch. So I figure that's why it's well lit, so they can see. But at the same time, it's WarGames. I kind of like, call me old school. I like that more gritty, dark feeling. So I kind of wish maybe they would bring the lights down, kind of set the mood that this is like really intense, serious. Let's make it like, you know what I mean, kind of, you know, a little more, like you said, gritty feeling, like serious, more serious. Oh, yeah. So, but anyway, that's me like saying, kind of nitpicking it up. But like
I think this is what the second time WWE / NXT WarGames that it's been with a white mat too. Because the last WarGames they did was 2.0 in NXT, and the mats were white. But before then, all the mats were black in NXT.
Oh yeah, so that's a good point. Okay.
So, in addition to the mat being white on the main roster, right? Like it's you pointed that out. Like the lighting, it just brought a different element to it. Because even in NXT 2.0's version of WarGames, it was still very scrunched in, small environment. You know, so it was cool to see even the ringside area stretched out as far as it was with the two rings. Yeah, but they didn't really highlight the two rings as much as I would have liked them to in like the regular matches throughout the show.
Yeah, no, I remember back in the day as a kid, like, you know, they would have a match in one ring, but then it would carry over to the other ring, and then bring them back over.
Seeing Mysterio and Psychosis, and all them flip from one ring to the other.
I wish they would have done more of that too. I'm all for that. But yeah, I like how the show kicked off. Ozzy Osbourne kind of introducing the show, and he
that was great.
Lip sync, you know, Black Sabbath's War Pigs, which was the theme, which is perfect. You know, just what a perfect song for the theme itself. And I know they did it as well in NXT, I think a couple years ago. So no, it was awesome that they did that and get Ozzy out there. And I love how they keep saying he's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's the Prince of Darkness, man. He is rock royalty. But for them, they acknowledge he is a WWE Hall of Famer, which is cool. Yes. All right, cool. I'll take it. And then, like I said, I like Michael Cole acknowledging Dusty Rhodes. First match of the night was the women's WarGames match. And yeah, man, I knew that's what's going to happen. You know, when they got two scheduled, men's and women, you know, you have to do one at the beginning and one at the end. So you have time to spread them apart and, you know, time to set up the cage and stuff. But yeah, so we'll go through this real quick as far as, well, I guess I'll ask you kind of your initial, just kind of quick thoughts on the match itself.
The women's WarGames?
Yeah.
So I thought I was a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, because, we don't really go off the women's, right? And I think the earlier years for the women in NXT, they set such a bar, right? And then I think the 2.0 version of the women's WarGames match was good, but it took a step back, right? Okay. And I think they tried to mix women who hadn't been in it, right, or even just hadn't been in that type of match before, along with, you know, the likes of Io Shirai, you know, aka Io Sky, you know, Dakota Kai,
even Rhea Ripley,
you know what I mean? Like, to have all these new, it's good to have new, fresh, you know, people in the match, right? I think that's good, but it just wasn't as good as all the other older NXT women's WarGames matches. So I was a little nervous, but I was still, you know, because, you know, you see Rhea Ripley, you know what she can do in there. Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Bayley's a true pro. So I thought that was a cool to see Bayley getting a chance to get in there. Bianca Belair. I knew that there was a whole lot of athleticism in this match. So after the first probably I don't know, I'd say 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, this isn't bad. This is going to be good. Once everybody gets in there, I feel like they're going to turn it up. I did notice that a lot of people were pointing out some botches and some mess ups. Hey, I mean, you want to put on a good performance. I know that, some people might have been nervous. That's all right. I didn't see any mess ups that bad, right? It just seemed like the momentum. Everybody just, sometimes you move so fast or you move so quick or you're trying to set up a spot, and I feel like sometimes it's even from a production standpoint, it's production's fault, right? Like they're capturing something that they shouldn't be capturing at the moment. It's just like, oh, well, if we didn't see that, would it have been a botch, right? Like if they had just cut maybe and let them set up first and then cut back right when they're right before they get ready to do the move or the jump off the top rope, then but stuff happens. But from overall, I thought the match was really good. One of my favorite spots, I think I'm trying to remember, oh man, I have
some of the spots here. Hopefully, okay. Well, real quick, I do want to ask you. So, the fifth member of Team Belair, we haven't a chance to talk about this, was announced on Friday Night SmackDown. It was Becky Lynch. So Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Mia Yim, and Becky Lynch rounded out the group. So big reveal on SmackDown. I know there's a lot of people speculating who's going to be the fifth member, and then the dirt sheets start reporting who the rumor person was. So I know some people were talking about it, some were not trying to spoil it. So a lot of people were trying to speculate. Was it going to be Becky Lynch? Was it going to be Sasha Banks, Naomi, Candice LeRae, Beth Phoenix? I mean, the list goes on of all these possible different female competitors who have issues with members of team Bayley's team, Damage CTRL and stuff. But it ended up being Becky Lynch. What'd you thought? I mean, me personally, I thought that was the best choice, and I was super happy with that pick. How about you?
Yeah, if you're not gonna be able to have Sasha Banks, right, and Naomi, I think Becky Lynch was the right call, especially storyline wise, and then even during the match when you saw how it all came together, when you got Bianca and Becky Lynch having each other's back going against Damage CTRL, coming full circle all the way from SummerSlam. I thought that if you didn't think it was a good decision when they announced it on last Friday, then if you watch the match, then you probably think, okay, it probably changed your mind, because it was kind of like a going back to that moment when it was just Bianca and Becky in the ring standing with Damage CTRL, the three, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, and Bayley. So for them to even kind of end it on that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. When Becky Lynch came out, I was super excited, super happy. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence with Sasha Banks now, because I feel like it's been like this whole question mark of what's her status, what everyone's just guessing, and I'm just getting kind of tired of hearing about it and the speculation. It's like, I'm at the point now, it's like, if she shows up, great. I would love to see her in the ring. I love Sasha Banks. I love watching her wrestle. But I'm at the point now where I feel like there's like little teases of potential comeback, and like, I just feel like I keep getting disappointed or let down. So I'm at the point now, it's like, I'm just tired of people discussing when she's coming back. I'm like at the point now, just do it. But now I know there's reports they're still in contract negotiations. I guess Sasha Banks has a dollar amount in her mind that she feels like she deserves and earns. WWE does not want to pay that, apparently, and so they're far apart from that. So they're still trying to figure out a right number to pay her for her new salary. So which for a company that makes a lot of money, I want the superstars to make as much money as they can. They're the ones that put their body on the line. But, at the same time, I want to make sure everyone on that roster gets paid, a good amount too. So, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. I definitely, like I said, I want Sasha Banks back, but at the same time, I'm just tired of like the guessing game when she's coming. Like I'm just getting tired of letdown. Let's just move on. When she shows up, yay, let's enjoy it. But in the meantime, let's just focus on who's there right now. So, Becky Lynch, and she is so over. Male or female, the WWE Universe loves her. When she came out, the crowd erupted. And I'm glad they did the reveal on SmackDown, because I think if it was going to be Sasha Banks, it probably would have been better to do it in Boston the night of Survivor Series as a surprise. But I'm glad they, since it was not Sasha Banks, do that reveal earlier, so that way people are not guessing and let down if it's not Sasha Banks' night of show. So I'm glad they did it early on Friday just to get it out of the way. That way people don't have to speculate for another 24 hours. Get it done.
Let the people who are upset get it out of their system. Let them be upset.
Exactly. So I was super happy. Great choice. I mean, you can argue she's the best available option. I know Sasha Banks is amazing, but you can say Becky Lynch is the bigger name out of the two. So it was definitely great call. So the match starts. So Bianca Belair, Dakota Kai started the women's match. So I'm just going to power through real quick the order. Io Sky came in next. That's right. Team Bayley had the advantage for this one. So Io Sky was next to enter the match. And then after that was Asuka. And then Nikki Cross came in. Then Alexa Bliss, let's see, Bayley was next to enter, then Mia Yim, then Rhea Ripley, then Becky Lynch. So that was the order right there of the WarGames net. Now for the match itself, Brian, there were so many great spots here. I know we can't go through them all. Like if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you're listening right now, I'm sure you saw it yourself. So there were so many great moments there in this match. For me, I love how like poor Dakota Kai was like taking all the bumps early on. She was like taking the beating from everyone. So kudos to her for like, running around, taking, like I said, the bumps from everyone. When Asuka got into the match, I just love seeing Io Sky and Asuka go at it. So I thought it was just kind of cool that even Michael Cole acknowledged their history, that they were part of a team in Japan with Io Sky's sister. So I thought that was cool. Like, we got like a match within a match, Io Sky versus Asuka going back and forth there. That was so cool to see the two of them go at it. I love that. And then, I love seeing when Nikki Cross came in. I love her tactic of like grabbing weapons under the ring to bring into the match. So I love how like she brought like kendo sticks and trash can lids. She even had the big, dive off the top of the cage. What's that called? The belt or crossbody. Leap off the cage. And then I love seeing like, Asuka use the poison mist in Rhea Ripley's face.
That was a great spot too.
We got to see Rhea Ripley and and Becky go at it as well. We saw, Io Sky do the moonsault off the top of cage again. We saw with Becky put the trash can on Io Sky and hit her with it. So was there any other moments in that match that kind of stood out for you? Any other spots that you can think of?
Well, the moonsault.
Yeah.
That I believe it was Io, right? That Io did. I got a little scared for Bianca there.
Yes.
Because it looked like her knee got caught or buckled after that moonsault spot. And so I was watching the ref. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's the last thing they need. Like the women in general, I feel like they're doing good, but they could be doing much better. On the SmackDown side, I feel like they're suffering. Last thing they need is for, Bianca Belair to go down with injury, especially this close to WrestleMania. There's always somebody who gets hurt right before WrestleMania and they're not able to perform. And so it would really suck if that person was Bianca Belair, or anybody really, but it seemed like she was okay. So I was relieved. I was like, all right, cool. She's good to go.
Yeah, and so I loved at the end though, where Becky and Bianca were working together. So they were, enemies a year ago, or last SummerSlam all the way through this SummerSlam, I should say, WrestleMania and SummerSlam. But now that Becky's been back, and that they're one and the same now, they're buddies now. Well, after SummerSlam ended, the next night on Raw, Becky announced she was going to be out with a separated shoulder, and she turned face the night before at SummerSlam when Damage Control made their debut. But she told Bianca, "Hold down the fort, and I'll be back." And so, jump ahead 4 months later, that message is still strong. Her and Bianca are working together. So I love like the two top baby faces of Raw working together, and I love their chemistry. So as far as the end of the match though, let's see. So we saw Becky and Bianca going at it with Bayley, Sky, and Dakota Kai. Becky got the manhandle slam on Kai before Bianca hit the KOD on Io Sky. I love seeing that. It was against the cage wall right there. That was so cool.
She just like flung her right.
Yes. And then, he also hit Bayley with the KOD into the cage. Excuse me, that's what I meant. The cage wall, and then Becky hit a leg drop from top of the cage down onto Dakota Kai and Io Sky, who were on the tables, and was able to pin them for the win. So a leg drop that would make Hulk Hogan proud. Like, that's what I thought of, like Hulk Hogan's leg drop. Like, if Hulk Hogan was wrestling today, like, brother, I could have done that.
Do you think Hogan, if he was wrestling today, do you think he would ever, like, how sometimes when you've done your finishing move so much, when you're in a feud or something, and you have to just add that exclamation mark, you do it off the top rope. You think Hogan would have ever done his leg drop off the top rope
if he was in his prime right now?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Like, because you think about in the 80s, like the biggest move I think he did, I'm trying to remember, like, in at that time, what was like a big high spot for Hogan.
It's pretty crazy that he never actually did the leg drop in any other way
than just off the ropes. Running off the
entire
ropes.
Career. Yeah, he never did it while someone was staggered, or you know what I mean, like how with Seth with the curb stomp. Not to get too off topic, but I think Zaire, he wants to see Hogan do the leg drop off the top rope.
I think Zaire wants to do one himself.
Yes.
He should do one on you. You should practice with him.
Oh my God, he's gonna give me the manhandle slam.
No, but you're right. Like, I mean, I saw that video that was going a little viral the other day. Just like, I think Hogan's only been powerbomb like 5 times in his career. I don't know if you saw that clip going around.
Yep.
So Hogan didn't leave his feet that often, only for a leg drop on his opponent for the finish. So Hogan stood on his feet a lot. So it would be interesting to see if Hogan could pull off a leg drop from the top of a cage.
Oh yeah,
he probably would say, doesn't work for me, brother.
Doesn't work for me.
but that was a great spot from Becky, the leg drop from the top of the cage onto the opponents for the pin for Dakota Kai and Io Sky. And I do want to clarify something, Brian. I think I do want to give these ladies credit, as chaotic as it was. Yeah, like I said, so many spots. There was a lot of spots going on, and that was on purpose, because I don't know if you saw, there was that report a few weeks ago that WWE wants to make it a point that these war games have a lot of big moments that obviously they can film and document, that they can use in future promo videos and video packages promoting future war games matches, because that's kind of the issue they had right now. Since this was the first on the main roster, they don't have a lot of footage to work with. They're not really going to use old NWA, WCW war games matches for highlight reels, for video package promoting, because that's like decades ago. And it's it's a different style. The cage is different, and so it doesn't really make sense to show that. There's like a bunch of older wrestlers that people don't know about. I mean, the younger audience maybe doesn't know as well. And then NXT, the NXT version of War Games, as you know, like the first, how many they had? Like 5 of them, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So they had 5 war games so far in NXT, and in the first 4 had the Undisputed Era in all of them. They're all gone now. So you have like the majority of these matches filled with guys who are no longer in WWE. So you're really slim picking. So you saw the small footage they had to work with. It was a lot of just Pete Dunne, Riddle, Ricochet, I think some War Raiders. So you get what I'm saying, a Ciampa. So it was very slim pickings of what current footage they have from the NXT era of War Games that they can use to pick and choose from to make these video packages, hyping up what War Games is. So yeah, it was very slim pickings. So needless to say, there was kind of like a emphasis for this War Games for the wrestlers to do a lot of high spots, so that way they have a lot of great moments that they can use moving forward for video packages. So yeah, I'm just warning you, Kliqsters, that Becky Lynch leg drop is going to be used. You're going to see a lot of it over and over for years to come for future War Games matches and hype videos.
They might even Photoshop her out and put other women.
I was going to say Photoshop Hogan's head on her doing the leg drop. But yeah, like all those spots, like I said, Bianca with the KOD, Io Sky with the moonsault, like there's all these spots are going to be used for future video packages. And so same for the men as well. So that's something I saw was being reported, like there was going to be emphasis. But yeah, no, overall the women's match, I loved it. I did think like the second half, you could tell they were getting a little winded. So they were all kind of like laying there. And I was waiting for when Becky came in. I thought I want everyone to get up because that's what I love about the old War Games matches. When the babyface, like the last babyface was coming in, the crowd would pop and everyone would be standing waiting for them. When all the women were laying down on the mat, I was like, kind of get up, make it a big deal. Like I want the babyface making a charge to have a big, come in and take everyone out. When they're all laying there, it's like, oh, it's kind of a little anticlimactic when they make the run in, but no,
exactly.
But things picked up. I get it. They're tired. They're working their ass off, all the high spots, putting their bodies on the line. I get it. And so, and the match still ended on a high note. I was very happy with this match and how it played out. It was very exciting. So can't wait for the next one. I'm already amped up for the next War Games when that can happen. Let's see. So next up, it was AJ Styles versus Finn Bálor, just one-on-one match here. The first 2 members or leaders of the Bullet Club, which Michael Cole stressed again, which I thought that was cool. And
did you hear Corey Graves say, oh, you like that they like you on the internet, don't you, Cole? And he's like, I sure do.
yes. When he said that, I was like, oh, it's because he's name dropping all like the outside of WWE wrestling references. It's great.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing. It's like WWE, I know they're the biggest company and they've been the dominant company for decades, but there are other wrestling promotions that exist that these wrestlers have worked and came in. And I don't know about you, but like growing up in the 90s when announcers would acknowledge this person worked here, and here, I was like, oh, cool. It just shows like how big the wrestling world is. And it's cool to kind of learn people's history and just the connection that, these guys and gals have worked with each other in other promotions and do have a bigger history than what we know, and it's bigger than outside of WWE. So it's just cool, like connecting the dots like that. And for me, I love when he said these are the first 2 leaders of the Bullet Club. Well, Corey Graves did stress, or was it Michael Cole, did say, well, AJ, when AJ was the leader of the Bullet Club, he always said he wasn't the leader. It was like everyone was like equal parts, equal parts in the Bullet Club, but he was like more or less the leader. But so everyone says he's the leader. But here's the thing, imagine like you're a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid and you're a fan of AJ or Finn, and Michael Cole says, yeah, they used to be the leaders of Bullet Club. You're going to be like, oh, what's that? And you're going to do some research because, when they were in Bullet Club, you were like a little kid and you probably weren't watching all that stuff. So if you're a kid that's like invested in them, you'll go back and watch some of that older stuff. So it's like opens up, your mind and the doors of what other great wrestling's out there in their history. So I think that's what's cool when you acknowledge that, especially for the younger fans, they can go back and watch those older stuff and like, oh, Finn was Prince Devitt in New Japan and leader of the Bullet Club. I want to see what that character was like in all those matches. So I think it's cool when they do that, and especially for like I said, younger kids. But yeah, the match itself, this seems to be kind of down the middle. There's some people who really love this match, and some people who kind of were hating on it. I don't know, what'd you think about this one?
I thought it was good. I thought it was one of those good old fashioned matches where you start off fast and you come slow down, and then it starts to pick back up towards the end, and then you got a clean winner, right? And I think AJ Styles picking up the clean win was important for him, not only for him, but the story also, because no one wants, we're talking about leaders here, right? AJ Styles, Finn Bálor, no one wants a losing leader. I used to say that a lot about Adam Cole when he was the leader of the Undisputed Era. He just seemed like he could not capture gold at all whatsoever. Everyone in the group is winning and getting gold, but Adam Cole is unable to just win the big one, right? But so, AJ Styles picking up a victory over Finn Bálor is really, really big. I don't think it hurts Finn Bálor at all. He's been on a roll, and hey, if we're going to take the OC serious and AJ Styles going forward out of this match, AJ Styles need to win. I don't know. I feel like what fans maybe probably expected out of this match was probably like a hard-hitting New Japan style type match.
Yeah, were they expecting like some like Wrestle Kingdom type main event match here? No, this is the second match of the card. So like for them, I know they take a lot of great pride in their work, but in reality, they probably knew, okay, we're the second match of this card, so we're gonna go out there and deliver a great match, entertaining, but we're not the main event. I'm trying. I wish John LaRocca was here to kind of explain. This is something I've learned from John LaRocca. Depending on your match placement is where it is what kind of story you're trying to tell. Like the big spot, dramatic spots, high spots, sometimes you save that for the main event. If you do all that stuff like on the second or third match on the card, it's going to saturate what's seen at the end. If you give too much, every match should be different and unique in its own way. You don't want the same type of match, high flying, bunch of false finishes every single match. The crowd's going to get burnt out. They're going to get bored. It's like, wait, we've seen this every single match. So by the time the main event rolls around, it's going to be like, wait, what are we doing here? Like, we've seen this already like 5 times already throughout the night. So, I'm not trying to excuse them, but it's just like, they're the second match of the card. So, for them, they're like, we're going to deliver a great wrestling match, but, it's not a main event worthy match, if that makes sense. Hopefully you guys understand.
And I agree. And I feel like, too, they're a lot older. And I don't mean that in terms of like age. I'm just saying as characters, they've matured. Maybe I don't think either one of them wrestle that style. They're not going to choose to wrestle that style on a nightly basis, right? And they're definitely not going to choose to wrestle that style while they're in their specific roles, right? With their character. Finn Bálor doesn't seem like that guy. I know a lot of people see a lot of elements of his Prince Devitt, obviously New Japan-esque style. I know that people see a lot of elements, but this is, to me, this is how I feel. I feel like Finn Bálor, this is a new and improved revamp. This is the official WWE Finn Bálor that we're getting. Not the Demon King, not the Demon, not
smiley IC champion.
Not the smiley IC champion, and not the we got to sell these figures and these plush dolls. Finn Bálor, right? We're getting the real Finn Bálor, and this is completely different from who he was in New Japan, and same with AJ. I think AJ, it's been the talk, right? I guess hasn't had a win in over a year or something like that.
No, I think it's 3. He's had a singles win in I think 3 years. Because keep in mind, like most of 2020, he was with Omos, so he was getting wins on pay-per-views, but it was in tag matches. But I think it's been 3 years that he's had a singles win on a pay-per-view. So, but there's an asterisk next to that, because keep in mind, he was with Omos for a long time. They were Raw tag team champions, right? So he did win on pay-per-view, but it was in tag team action. Right. So that's what that stat was being thrown out there.
Well, and I'll say, I don't know if everybody watches wrestling this way, but sometimes, sometimes it's easy to get distracted by the wins and loss thing when you're just looking at it so much, or when you're getting sucked into what social media is saying, when they keep reminding you of the wins and loss thing, and it makes you go, oh man, AJ Styles, he really needs to win this one, but if you watch the match and you realize that it's not easy to get that win, it's a lot of pressure on AJ Styles. He knows he hasn't won a match in 3 years, right? So, and he knows that in 3 years, his body has went shoo, right? And it's changed, it's evolved, right? So it's not going to be as easy for him to get a win right now as it probably would have been 3 years ago. He's got to work 10 times harder, especially to keep up with the Austin Theories and the Johnny Garganos and Tommaso Ciampas and even now Finn Balor, who is on a whole nother level. So
yeah, well, and that's the thing too, is for this match, and to me this match reminded me of like a takeover match, as far as, and it's just something, I know we're running long already, but I'll just say this: you and I were talking off the air, just to peel back the curtain a little bit before we hit the record button. You and I were talking. I think sometimes listeners or fans get caught up in wins and losses, like you said, as far as if someone loses, oh my God, they're being buried. Well, no, like it's wrestling. There's going to be winners and losers. If it's a straight up clean match, there's going to be winners and losers. Now, I know there can be DQ finishes. The heel can win with a sneaky cheat way. I know all that. But this match, like I said, it was like two love wrestlers, obviously babyface heel. But it was a straight up wrestling match that had a clear winner. And I'd say it reminded me of TakeOver, because the majority of TakeOver matches over the years, I give Triple H credit under his time at NXT. Most of his matches had clear winners.
Yep.
Not a lot of DQ finishes or wonky finishes, all that stuff. He had straight up one-on-one matches or tag matches that had just clear winners, and both people came out fine afterwards. The person that won obviously maybe got moved up to the main event scene or championship title shot or whatever. And then the people who lost, even though they lost, they still got the respect of the fans and their peers. And it's like, this person put up a hell of a fight. Even though they lost, there's still going to be a badass opponent to put up with in the future. So I feel like this match, instead, it felt like a takeover to me, as far as, even though it doesn't matter who wins or loses here, both guys I think are going to come out great after this, and I think they still do. I mean, they're both still threats. So, like I said, it was a great match. I love the story. AJ was working on Finn's leg early in the match, taking out his calf, trying to really beat up that part of the body to set up for him to do the calf crusher on him. Damian Priest, at one point was distracting the ref. Dominic on the other side, took out AJ's legs. He hit the apron, then the OC came in over to make the save, and then it was OC versus Judgment Day outside the ring, and then those guys all fell off the barricade and fought through the crowd, and they disappeared. And then it was back. It worked itself into just a straight up one-on-one, no outside interference, and so it turned into like I said, like a takeover match. Like, no outside bodies interfering. It was just two guys one-on-one, and ultimately we had a clean winner, which, I mean, I love when AJ did get the calf crusher. He leaned so far back, Finn grabbed him and started smashing his head into the mat, which, is that what Brock did to AJ?
I'm not sure.
Didn't Brock get AJ in a calf crusher? Or excuse me, AJ got Brock in a calf crusher. I think, I'm trying to remember. It was so long ago. Bálor got out of it, and then they were going back and forth, and then Styles hit the phenomenal forearm off the ropes and pin Finn Bálor and picked up the win. So AJ did get his a win finally. So
and if you pay attention to Styles' face after he picked up the win, you see he kind of takes a deep breath, like, you know what I mean? Like, I got the win, I got it over with. It was hard, it was tough, and that goes back to even just what I was saying. Like, AJ Styles knows how much pressure he's under with the whole wins and loss thing, and he also knows he's going up against a different Finn Bálor, right? And he mentioned that on the bump. I don't know how many people watched the bump before the pay-per-views, but he mentioned that on the bump, and so I feel like it makes the match a lot better to watch when you kind of focus in on the actual match, the story that's being told, and not so much the wins and losses, because then now you're just waiting for the end at that point, right? Like, AJ needs to win.
Well, I loved also, like, Michael Cole reference, obviously their history in Japan, but also like Finn's history in New Japan with Apollo 55, his old tag team, how many titles he won in New Japan, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship and tag titles, all that stuff. I loved all those references. And then,
commentary does help with that a lot too.
Yeah. So, but like ultimately, like I said here, it was a straight up clean finish. That AJ was just a better man that night. Nothing for Finn. That's the thing. If you think about, like I said, going back to the takeover reference, how many takeovers we watch and we see, two guys or gals go at it, and there's a straight up clean victory for one person, the other person loses. I mean, it's pretty rare that I think most people watch those takeovers and the person that lost, their immediate reaction is, oh, that person's getting buried now. No,
hardly ever saw that.
More just them applauding, like, bravo, you guys both had an amazing match. You laid it all out there. Very entertaining. It was awesome. The person that won, like I said, is going to go on to, next, another storyline. The person that lost got to, rebound and figure out what's next. And so, but for me, it was never like, oh, that person got buried. And I think now maybe people are so used to Vince McMahon's booking. If someone lost, they just think, oh, they're being buried. No, it's like, well, no. And like I said, just because Finn lost here, he's not being buried. So I think that's kind of like the mindset. I think fans watching this stuff got to keep that in mind. Just because someone lose, it's not the end of the world. They can bounce back. Look in sports, teams lose, they got to collect themselves and go out there and try to win again. There's always a new day. No pun intended. but hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like, I'm trying to stress, like,
Yeah, definitely.
It was a great, like I said, takeover type match where two guys are going at it and had a clean finish. So anyway, we can go on. Like I said, I know it was a little slower.
We're not going to see the rematch 5 times for the next 5 weeks.
I mean, they also say, this is only their second time wrestling ever in WWE. I know they wrestled some other place in Britain or something. Like, there was a British reference. I forgot. I'm off the top of my head.
Something like that.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, it's I'm excited to see where both guys and gals going to go after this for, the OC and Judgment Day, which we'll get into a little bit with Raw, what happened. Yeah. Next up was for the SmackDown Women's Championship, Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi Blackheart, or excuse me, just Shotzi here. Brian, we don't need to spend too much time on this one, just because I know a lot of people were hating on this match, and for the most part, I'm trying to be diplomatic here, rightfully so in some cases. I'll just turn to you. Your thoughts on this match here.
So, this match was horrible. And I think it was horrible for many different reasons, right? And I know the first and the most popular reason everyone's talking about is Ronda Rousey. And they talk about how bad she is and how uninteresting she is and how uninterested she looks, and so many different reasons. I think I just don't think Ronda fits Triple H's version of WWE.
Okay.
In terms of star power, sure. Right? Like if this was NXT, she'd definitely be somebody that he'd bring in as a free agent to come in and, feud with someone and then win the championship at Takeover Dallas, right? Or Takeover Hollywood in this case, right? Because WrestleMania is Hollywood. Or Stand and Deliver, right? She definitely come in and win the championship, but I just feel like she's not the best worker. She's not the worker that people want her to be. And I'm talking just not in the ring and outside of the ring, right? Like when she's in the ring, she's not that great. And when she's outside of the ring, it's almost like she doesn't care. I know she has her antics online and social media and the videos that she does. People see that and they take that and they're like, she just doesn't care, right? Why is she on the roster? Why is she with WWE? And it almost seems like Triple H has her as like a placeholder, right? Like somebody's got to hold the championship until I reshuffle this women's division, which isn't hard or it's not easy to do. And I know people got their fan, they've booked it already. It belongs to Becky. It belongs to this person or that person. But excuse me, I feel like Shotzi was put in a really horrible spot. Bad spot. It's already bad enough that a lot of people were calling for Shotzi, saying that she didn't know what she was doing. I mean, it was just a few months ago that people were like, oh, Shotzi doesn't know what she's doing. She's boring. She blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. Then they want her to get the tank back. She gets the tank back, and then they call her boring some more. It's just, I don't think this was really Shotzi's fault. She was out there trying to wrestle her butt off. But she's not like Becky Lynch or Charlotte even, right?
Yes.
Who can make Ronda look good or make Ronda make them look good, right?
I get exactly what you're saying. It's a situation. Okay, let's talk about the match itself. As far as one, it didn't have a lot of build to it. It was created 3 weeks ago. And so, I do feel bad for Shotzi. I felt like she was kind of put in a tough situation. One, like I said, short build. And let's be real, everyone said Ronda was going to win. I saw a bunch of prediction videos and stuff. Like, I felt bad for Shotzi. Like, everyone was like, there's no way she's going to win. It's Ronda's match to win here. So I felt kind of bad for her. Just like, it's one thing to be the underdog, but the fact that no one was believing that she could win this, that was tough. Two, it's a situation here where it's just they don't really have good chemistry together. It's tough because in wrestling you can kind of get by. Maybe one person is not as good I want to say not as good. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. Maybe has a certain wrestling style that needs a good dance partner to work with. And so if you can put in a match with someone that's a really good worker, the two people can make magic still. And we've seen that many times over the years. Look at most of Bret Hart's matches. He'll make the opponent look amazing, but that person doesn't have nowhere near the wrestling skills that Bret would have. But Bret knew how to work a match to make someone look amazing. So with that being said, I get what you're saying. Ronda Rousey, while she's such a badass MMA fighter and hugely successful Hall of Famer, all that stuff, no one can take away her legacy. She's a legend, but has difficulty picking up the wrestling style, the sports entertainment style. And so at times when she's in a match, it looks kind of clunky, looks a little awkward in there, her body language and stuff. I think most of that time you can get by with that. You have the right dance partner in the ring who can work with her strengths and weaknesses to make her look like a more realistic wrestler, or at least that wrestling style. MMA and wrestling are kind of two different things, as far as the presentation goes. And so I think unfortunately Shotzi's not someone that could do that. So you got kind of two negatives working here against each other. It's one thing you have Ronda, but maybe they should have picked a better opponent for this Survivor Series pay-per-view. A better opponent that can work with her in the ring. That goes back with what you said, as far as that kind of explains or reveals kind of how much lack of depth there is on the SmackDown women's roster. There's not a lot of options here. Literally that six-pack challenge a few weeks ago, and it's like, yeah, that's really it. That's all they have as far as possible opponents for SmackDown. And Raw has all the star power and all the, you can argue the better workers. So it's just kind of slim pickings for Ronda. So I just feel bad for Shotzi. Shotzi, to me, she's more like a Liv Morgan. She's like an underdog. She'll go out there and work her butt off, but is probably not ready to like carry a match. Yeah, like a Becky or Bayley. Like what we talked about before, Bayley is amazing. Every match Bayley has with someone, that person comes out better in it. Out of it, like we talked about with her and Bianca. Bianca has had some of her best matches with Bayley, and that shows how talented Bayley is. Bayley can make that person look like $1 million.
And see, with the SmackDown Women's Division and the way this match went, and the way that a lot of these matches have been going at least ever since Triple H has taken over, I feel like what's happening with the SmackDown Women's Championship and the Women's Division as a whole, I feel like it's the same thing that's happening with the world title situation and Roman, right? Like I feel like they tried with Liv, it didn't work. All right, let's put it back on Ronda. She's really the only one on SmackDown that has that star power. No one likes Raquel. No one likes who else do they have? I mean,
so Liv.
I mean, they could have put it on. They could have put it on Shayna, right? But
yeah,
I feel like for
Shayna's a little bit of a rehab project, like or rehab as far as like Triple H is trying to rebuild her to the monster that she was presented in NXT, because she's been more of a comedic act lately.
There you go. So he's trying to build her back up. Raquel. I feel like she's got a bright future in Triple H's regime, in Triple H's WWE going forward, like post WrestleMania, when we actually get a draft and when we actually get set rosters and titles are where they're supposed to be and champions are who he wants them to be, right? I feel like once we get to that part, things will be much better for the women's division, SmackDown women's division specifically. But right now, I feel like we're going to have to just deal with the Ronda and the situation around. I know a lot of people, they want it to be Becky. They want Becky to have the SmackDown Women's Championship. And it's just like right now, we just got to wait,
Yeah.
We have to wait it out, and we got to see.
Yeah, so for the match itself, it wasn't that long. It was a little over 7 minutes. Ronda, for the most part, it probably should have been just a squash match just to kind of save everyone here in this situation.
Probably should have, yeah.
But it was more just Ronda kind of toying around with Shotzi, kind of just being in control and just kicking her and poking fun of her and kind of talking in her and trash talking with her. Shotzi got a little offense going here or there, trying to make a comeback. I did enjoy. Shotzi went for the suicide dive outside, and then Shayna pushed Ronda out of the way, and Shayna took the blow. I thought that was cool little spot there. Unfortunately, there was that really terrible apron DDT spot that everyone was referring to, where Shotzi, it's a move she's done since like NXT, where she tries to hit a DDT on the opponent on the apron while she jumps over the ropes and lands on the outside. And it's all over Twitter, or you can rewatch it on Peacock. Shotzi tries to hit the DDT on the apron, but Ronda, I don't know if necessarily no-sold it, but she just stopped and held onto the rope and didn't go all the way, did not follow through and hit the apron. She kind of stopped, and then when Shotzi let go, then she just tumbled out. And so it looks really just, like you said, awkward, clunky.
She didn't commit to it.
Yeah, she didn't commit to it. So, people are, everyone's an expert. When stuff like that happens, everyone's an expert on Twitter of what the reasoning is behind it. So everyone says, well, it's obvious Ronda did not trust. Oh my God, I had to say that 3 times fast. Ronda did not trust Shotzi. So that's why she did not go all the way through with it. So she like held back. She stopped, and that's what, like I said, some people were trying to explain what happened there. So, which I don't know
about that.
Yeah, it's. So I don't know if it's a situation. Yeah, just Ronda did not want to sell.
She's done things. She's done things like that with Charlotte too, though.
No sell.
I've seen Ronda do that in the ring with multiple women. I don't think she does it on purpose. I just think that she's just not that kind of person, right? Like, she's not that kind of wrestler. She's not. I think. Yeah. I think maybe she gets a little scared or frightened.
Stops
in the middle of it. Even when she's on the offensive end, when she's executing her moves, she doesn't really commit, and it causes her to tumble weird or twist and turn all awkwardly, and it makes you think, is she trying to put an armbar or is she trying to put a rear naked choke? I don't know what she's trying to do, you know?
So yeah, she was mostly toying with Shotzi, trying to apply different submission holds and just trying to show that she was in the dominant, in control of the match. The one spot that really bugged me was, so Shotzi on the outside was running on the barricade, and does the cross body on the Shayna and Ronda. They fall back into the audience, and it's all a bunch of plant people. They all fall back onto the ground out of their chairs. I recognize some of the people. They're indie wrestlers and stuff. The woman specifically, I forgot her name. She was smiling and laughing. I don't know if you saw.
Yes,
she was like grabbing her head, like she was trying to act like she's in pain, like
clear
grabbing
as
her
day.
head. But then the camera caught her multiple times smiling and like oh my God, like she was like smiling, like, oh my God, look at me, I'm on TV. Like it was just like, come on, like sell that you're in pain. Your face, you should not be smiling. You should be like moaning or groaning or like, you know, pissed off, like, you know, like act like a fan, like, man, I paid a lot of money for these seats and I'm getting injured now. Like, you know, sell
adding
it.
insult to injury. It's just kind of like, it's already bad, right, this situation, but now it's like, all right, because you know that instantly took the fans, like the fans were looking at that, right, and they're like, oh, you know, I mean, because who wouldn't look at it when you see, you know, wrestlers crash into fans like that, right, or supposed to be fans, you want to see if they're okay, you want to see their reaction, like, whoa, was that, hold on a second, you know, are they all right?
yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, I watched that, and like I said, they're all like smiling, like, yay, we're on TV now. We just did a fun spot. It's like, no, sell it that like you're pissed off that, like, you know, someone landed on you and hurt you. Like, sell it better. So anyway, like I said, that just really annoyed me. But ultimately, they got back in the ring. Ronda locked in the submission, and then what was it? Oh, excuse me. She hit the Ronda hit a big dive before doing a Piper's Pit, then the arm bar, and Shotzi tapped out. So, like I said, the match, like I said, it was just an unfortunate situation. I think, you know, we talked about it plenty, but like I said, Shotzi, you know, unfortunately was put in a position where she's not the type of person that to take control of a match, be the one in charge of a match, and Ronda needs someone to kind of help carry her better, if that makes sense. So, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I do hope SmackDown kind of revamps the roster soon and maybe do some call ups, and you know, with the draft next year, you know, can kind of fix things up. And so yeah, WrestleMania is gonna be interesting. Who her opponent's gonna be. I think early right now, I think a lot of people want to see Bianca versus Rhea for the Raw Women's title. I think Becky and Bayley, or, you know, maybe we can get like a fatal 4-way between the 4 horsewomen. You don't even need a title for that. Just all 4 of them going at it.
Right.
Let that main event one the nights at WrestleMania. I think that'll be huge on its own. But yeah, I don't know where it's Ronda's next. That's the big question marks. What's next for Ronda and the SmackDown roster? So we shall see. All right, next up for the U.S. title, it was Seth Rollins defending against Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory. Triple threat match. I like this match a lot. I thought it was awesome. What'd you think of it?
It was great, man. And I was a little nervous to see how this match was gonna go, just because of the three completely different styles, right? We already know what they bring individually, and I think Austin Theory is really starting to show what he can bring to the table in ring wise. But I thought that all three worked really well together.
Yes.
I was very, very surprised the chemistry. And they were all able to shine, right? Like, no one looked weak. No one had to, dumb it down and go, oh, okay, well, it's a triple threat. So, no, all three were able to do what they normally do in regular one-on-one matches. And that's so important, especially in a triple threat matches, being able to, I know a lot of triple threat matches in the past, we got three guys, and usually it'd be a one-on-one match with one person on the outside for the majority of it, and then you get the old-fashioned, he comes in and he steals one away, with little offense, right? So the person wins the match, but that person usually put the little to no offense in throughout the entire match, and sometimes that works, right? Like if you're a heel and stuff, like if you just kind of, like, if you get beat up on the outside and you kind of wait for the opportunity, right? But I was hoping that we wouldn't get that story, just opportunity. Like, yeah, you obviously want to take advantage, right? But you want to take advantage if it's right in front of you. You don't want to purposely step away from the match or lay low because you don't want to get beat up and you don't want to lose, right?
Yeah.
I feel like in this case, all three men really looked strong, and they didn't look like they were shying away from the fight, and they were really trying to win the U.S. title. Made the U.S. title feel as big as they've been trying to make it feel. Yeah,
I was going to say, I was surprised the match was not even 15 minutes long, but it was so much action. I'm with you. Like, most triple threat matches usually starts out all three people going at it, and then eventually one person falls off to the side and it turns to one-on-one, and then eventually the other person comes back in, knocks someone else out, and then it goes one-on-one. So it's like everyone takes turns for one-on-one while the third person, odd person out, can rest for a bit on the outside, and they come back in. So I get what you're saying. That seems like it's always like the paint by numbers for a triple threat match. We didn't get that here. Yes, everyone got their moments to shine, taking turns, and it was like nonstop action. So I really enjoyed it as far as the pacing. Everyone, like, in the ring, outside of the ring, taking turns, having moments to do their thing. So it was really great. Real quick, I do want to ask you, we have a chance to talk about it. Last time we talked, we know Austin Theory cashed in, failed the Money in the Bank briefcase. The last couple weeks on Raw, he's kind of had like this new mean streak, being serious, dropping the selfie gimmick, and he seems like he's got a whole new focus, a little bit of a character change here. What's your thoughts on that whole thing? Because obviously that kind of played into this match, and then what we saw on Raw as well tonight.
I love it. It's everything that I've been wanting out of Austin Theory, or to see out of Austin Theory on the main roster. I feel like he's very much so capable of being the guy, on Raw or SmackDown. He's super young.
Yeah,
I know that if given the opportunity, he seems like a guy, and even in NXT, like, he just full of charisma. Even his short time on Raw prior to being sent back to NXT, I mean, he's just got it, like, right? Like, he doesn't look afraid of the big moments. And so I knew if just given the opportunity to really go out there and cut a real promo, get rid of the selfie, go out there and have a real match, show some emotion, then we were going to get the ball rolling on Austin Theory, and that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy for him.
I'm with you. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I'm with you as far as, yes, I do love this little mean streak on him. It's a little change. Drop the goofy selfie thing. And it's like, no, he's got to learn from his mistakes. He's like, okay, what I was doing in the past is not working. I need to change my game up. If I want to be successful, what I was doing was not working. So I like that character development as far as, okay, I need to change things up. What's working, what's not working. So him being more aggressive, pissed off, beat up Dolph Ziggler a couple weeks ago, beating up Seth, over the last couple weeks. I like this development in him. However, and that's the other thing we have a chance to talk about, his explanation a couple weeks ago why he cashed in, as far as, he's like, listen, I tried attempting against Roman a couple times, and I've been close, but there's been something blocking my way. He's got the bloodline protecting him. Brock Lesnar taking me out, Tyson Fury taking me out. Roman Reigns seems like an impossible person to cash in on. So what's the next best option? Well, it's Seth Rollins, and to Seth Rollins' credit, and I would even say Bobby Lashley's credit, those two, the last two U.S. champions, have really elevated that U.S. title as the A title for Raw, because as you said, we're kind of a little bit of a hostage situation with Roman Reigns being double champion, but he's mostly on SmackDown. He doesn't really show up on Raw. So Raw doesn't have, a world champion there. So what's the next best thing? Well, it's the U.S. championship. And, to give Triple H credit, over the last few months, he's really put a lot of emphasis on that U.S. title to say, all right, this is the A title for Raw for right now, until eventually when Roman drops those titles, and I'm sure they'll probably split them up again, and then a new world champion can come back to Monday Night Raw. But for the time being, they're really elevated that U.S. title. So I think that's really great what they've been doing. And so Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins have been dominant champions, making that U.S. title really special again. So I get it for Austin Theory. He's like, okay, if I can't go after Roman, well, I'm on Raw. Let me go after the top title on Raw, which is the U.S. title, which is a title I used to have as well. So it means a lot to me. I want to go after it. So I kind of get his motivation. However, on the other side of things, and feel free to jump in with any response to this, as far as he still had almost a year. He still had to next July to cash in that briefcase. It's like, okay, it's one thing right now. You're kind of afraid to go up against Roman, but you don't know what's going to happen to Roman 5-6 months from now. Maybe someone else can beat him, and then you can go after that new champion. Yep. And that's a less of a not as tough opponent. You know what I mean? So I love that we got some explanation, because I feel like under Vince McMahon's storytelling, he would just do things with no explanation. But at least now with Triple H, his wrestlers, every action, there's a reasoning behind it, and they explain it. So it's better storytelling there. But at the same time, there are still plot holes to that, or there's still holes in that explanation for Austin Theory. It's like, hold out. Like you said, it was an open challenge that night. You should just have the open challenge for the U.S. title, or just hold the briefcase. Be patient. You don't know what's going to happen to Roman in the next 6 months. Like I said, someone else can beat him up or take him out, and then you have another opportunity. It was still a premature decision to to cash in, but I'm sure for Triple H, he's like, you know what? I got to get this briefcase off him. If I'm going to rebuild him as my version of Austin Theory, I got to get off every remnant of Vince McMahon's booking off him, and then includes that briefcase. I think ultimately that's what it was. But anyway, briefcase is gone. New mean streak, new character development. I'm all for it. Like I said, the match itself was awesome. I loved everything about it. The finish, though, I actually really enjoyed this finish. It was really cool as far as, well, one, what'd you think of Bobby Lashley doing the double hurt lock on Seth and Austin? I love that spot.
That was fantastic.
I thought that might have been the finish right there. How awesome would be Bobby beat both of them, submit both of them at the same time? I was really hoping for that one.
And then you can also, you can argue, if he got both of them wrapped up in the hurt lock and one taps out, you can argue for the other one that was maybe it looked like Seth wasn't, he was kind of just hanging there. And you can argue and even hey, Seth, I didn't tap out. You know what I mean? That was theory. That wasn't me, So I did think for a minute that was gonna happen.
Yeah. So as far as the ending goes, He got the double hurt lock on Seth in Theory. And then, let's see, we saw Seth, go for the curb stomp off on Lashley. I like how he jumped off Theory's back to hit, or was it? No, I'm trying to remember which. It
was he jumped off Theory's back.
Off Theory's back.
Or did he jump off
Bobby's back to curb stomp Theory?
Right.
Let's see. Seth got a stomp on Lashley before hitting superplex. But a spear from Lashley saw Theory end up on top of Raw. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm reading my notes here. Seth, got the stomp on Lashley, then hit the superplex on Theory, and he was going to go for the Falcon Arrow. But Bobby came in, hit the spear on Seth, and then Austin fell on top of him and rolled over on him and got the pin. So he's the new U.S. champion. The finish, I like the finish, but a couple things. I feel like if Austin's going for this new mean streak, he just kind of won this match by luck, though. Like, I kind of wish he would have won more dominant fashion. I don't know. Are you cool with that finish?
I didn't think about that. Yeah, I'm cool with the finish, but yeah, I mean, he could have, but you do got a Bobby Lashley who just took out Brock Lesnar.
Okay.
It's going to be kind of hard for him to, clean pin and dominate someone like Lashley. And then also with Seth, it's kind of difficult for him to just flat out dominate and take out Seth too, because then you've kind of now sent crashing everything that you've done to build Seth Rollins up. He came out and said that this championship was the most important championship and that he was the guy. And excuse me. Yeah. So I feel like they had to kind of do it the way that they did it. It was a little snarky too of Theory. And ultimately I think they achieved what they wanted to achieve, which was kill all of the rumors of Austin Theory being buried and
true. Yeah.
And that he's not the guy going forward. Like, this is someone like Seth Rollins with Rumble season coming up. You don't need the U.S. championship tying him down. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And same thing with Bobby Lashley. So, hey, who's the next best guy? Austin Theory.
I guess for me, I was kind of hoping. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I want to see Austin Theory redeem himself and become U.S. champion to validate that cash-in attempt and the new direction of his character. I was hoping they might save that for like a WrestleMania victory, and over the next few months, he goes through more of a character development of like learning. All right, people are calling me the biggest loser ever. What do I need to do to rebound and improve as a performer to solidify myself as a champion? And so kind of going through that process over the next few months and growing as a person, as a wrestler, I thought we were going to see that play out. And then therefore, if he wins the title, the U.S. title at WrestleMania, it would mean that much more. So I thought that's why it was a little sudden that they put the belt back on him now, 3 weeks after, the failed cash in and like kind of this new mean streak. So then again, maybe we'll see still more of that growth as champion, which we kind of saw a little bit of that on Raw, which we'll get into in a sec. I'm sorry we're taking long, but it's been a couple weeks since we recorded, so we got a lot of stuff to catch up on outside the ring and what's leading up to this pay-per-view. All right, so main event time, men's War Games match. The Bloodline taking on the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. Man, Brian, this match, I love this match. It was all about the story played out here. And, I saw some people arguing or criticizing, like, it was more about the Sammy storyline and, Drew and the Brawling Brutes. They were kind of just like filling pieces and not a lot of attention to them. To me, it's okay. It's about the story. That's why emotionally I get invested in this stuff. I'm all for it, but before the match, and we didn't touch on it before, but there was like 3 segments backstage. So the first segment, we saw Jey talking to Roman, talking about what happened on SmackDown as far as he overheard, Kevin Owens talking to Sami Zayn in the hallway and telling them, why are you doing this? Why are you with the Bloodline? You should, they're going to turn on you. You should attack them first. And Sami's like, no, I'm with them. So Jey, after Kevin left, Jey comes out and says, who you're talking to. And, Sami says, I was talking to no one. So Jey doesn't trust Sami, thinks he knows he's lying to him. So anyway, jump ahead to the pay-per-view. Jay's telling this to Roman, like, dude, he lied to me. And then he said, well, go get Sami. I'll talk to him and I'll read his eyes if he's lying to me or not. Next segment, later in the show, Roman talks to Sami. Sami explained, hey, did this happen? And Sami admitted to him, yeah, no, he told the truth to him. Explained, well, he didn't want to, piss off Jey, didn't want to distract him before the advantage match they had later that night. So I enjoyed Sami's reasoning there, and the acting between the two of them was great. And I love that Roman just sat there for like a minute and just stared into his eyes. And then when he was done talking, gave him a big hug. But then his face turned serious, like that Godfather hug.
Yeah, they've all been knocking out these parts of the segments where there's like complete silence, where they're staring at each other. I know, everyone talks about, Sami and how funny he is and how he can, he's broken Roman and the Usos and Solo and Paul Heyman and stuff like that. But, the one good thing about this story and about all of them as performers is that they're able to just take a deep breath and, in those moments where Roman has to look you in the eye and stare you down, or if he has to take a minute and think before he speaks, right? Those things are really, really important, man. And they keep knocking it out of the park. Another successful, in my opinion, it's another home run segments over and over. Again, they continue to do this, whether it's before a match, after a match, or whether it's just the segment on a normal Raw or SmackDown. They keep knocking it out. I thought this was very important headed into WarGames. I always talk about WCW and NWO, seeing Sting and Hogan and with the paint and stuff pumped up backstage, talking about they're going to go out there and beat up the Horsemen or beat up the NWO or beat up whoever, stuff
the Dungeon
like that.
Of Doom.
The Dungeon of Doom. Yeah, stuff like that is really, really cool. And so to see kind of like Roman right before the WarGames kind of taking care of family business, talking to Jey, then talking to Sami, and then being like, all right, it's time to go out there now, right? And seeing it play out throughout the match even.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like earlier I was talking about that Wrestle War in 1992 with the Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance. It's Paulie Dangerously, a.k.a. Paul Heyman, his old faction he used to manage. If you watch that WarGames match, it was cool because Paulie was like a coach outside. He had a big piece of paper and he had everyone surround him. And he's like, okay, all right, this person's going to go in first. You're going to do this, this, and this. And the next person, you're going to do this, and this. So he was like being a coach out there for the WarGames match. Drawing up the plays. So I was kind of hoping they were going to do a callback for this, like Paul Heyman for the Bloodline trying to strategize. And listen, I know it was a big piece of paper back in 1992, but I thought maybe to modernize it, maybe everyone has like an iPad and he's going over strategy or something. Right. I was kind of hoping they were going to do that. Like he's going to tell them, hey, we're going to do this.
A lot of people talk about the blood and what's missing from WarGames and, the blood and all of that. But I think one thing that was missing from WarGames was, or at least a WarGames with this much story and this much intensity, right? This much meaning, was having the two teams cage side, on opposite side.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have added so much more to have, the brawling brutes outside banging on the cage, waiting to get in, or, someone, or that moment where you had, Roman hold back Jimmy Uso and sent out Sami to go help Jey. Something unfolding like that right outside next to the cage is so dramatic, and it kind of makes people in the cage kind of stop for a minute to kind of see. It may distract the Brawling Brutes, and it could cost them, right? Like stuff like that.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, the old WCW NWA WarGames cage, it had 2 sets of doors, one on each opposite corner, and each opposing team would be on the opposite side. So when it was each team's respective person's turn to go in, they would go in that cage and come in from one side or the other. The WWE version of the WarGames cage, it's only one door only. So that's why both teams are up in the shark cages, you want to call it that, on top of the ramp. And then when it's their turn, they open it up and that person runs down the ramp and goes through that one door only. So I get what you're saying. It'd be kind of cool, like callback, like the WCW style, where they all stand around. They have 2 doors and they're all standing around the door, like, banging, like, getting, I can't wait to get in there, kick your ass. So I get it. It's a little bit of a different storytelling there. But the third segment backstage, we saw Jey talk to Roman, and he told him that I trust Sammy. I looked in his eyes and stuff, see how it plays out. It was interesting though, like the way Roman hugged Sammy, and he just kind of, his face turned like a smile into more of like a serious, like, look, and right away everyone's like, it's a Godfather type hug. So it's like, maybe he still doesn't trust Sammy. So we'll get into that in a second. So the match itself, I love Jey started against Butch, go at it, and then next up it was supposed to be Jimmy, but Roman stopped him. I like how Roman sat down. Everyone else was standing. He had his own chair to sit down. He was calling the shots from the chair, which the old WarGames, like NWA, they had chairs on the outside too. They used to sit in chairs. You watch that Dusty Rhodes 4 Horsemen one from '87. They all had chairs out there, which I thought was kind of funny. Like, they don't really look enthusiastic, just sitting in a chair waiting for their turn, get called off the bench. But I like it what you said when they would stand there up against the cage wall. But so anyway, Roman stops Jey and says, no, I want Sammy to go in, and makes him go in. And he's like kind of resistant at first, but he kind of wants them to work it out in the ring, work together. So, and then the kind of the match, what'd you think how the match played out though, the way it kind of turned into?
I thought the match overall, it could have been a little more fast paced, and I don't know if the method of the match or something needs to change, but it did feel like we were kind of waiting for something, right? The match was good, don't get me wrong, but if there's one critique I had to make, I'd say that it felt like for a minute we were just waiting. Even the fans in attendance, like, you can tell that they were just waiting for something to happen. They were, whether that was an interaction between Roman and Jey and Sammy, or Sammy and Kevin Owens, right? But yeah, they were waiting for the story to unfold, and so maybe that kind of took away from excuse me, the like the actual match and the quality. Like, all right, like it wasn't like they were flying back and forth, and again, I know that's a critique, the blood thing. I know we can get into that another time about what if it's even needed, but yeah, I mean, I honestly think I'm gonna watch it back because I gotta admit, I'm probably guilty of kind of just waiting around, like watching the match, but instead of like actually watching the match, I'm kind of just waiting around to see, okay, what's Sammy gonna do? I'm watching Sammy and Jey Uso the entire time,
Yeah. So let's see, just to recap real quick. So Jey and Butch started a match, then Ridge Holland, then Sami Zayn, then Drew McIntyre, then Jimmy Uso, then Kevin Owens, then Solo Sikoa, and then Sheamus, then Roman Reigns came in last. Baby faces had the advantage for this WarGames, a rare situation where the baby faces had that, and most of the time from a psychology standpoint, it's always been the heels had the advantage because at any given time they would always outnumber the baby faces one by one as they all come into the match at various points. But this time, the baby face had the advantage. And there's actually a stat the team that has the advantage, there's a high percentage they don't win the match. So when I saw the baby faces win the advantage match on SmackDown, I was like, they're not going to win. They're not going to win War Games. So, but yeah, the match itself, like I said, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, the Brawling Brutes worked their ass off. Ridge Holland, I know we didn't get a big reaction from the crowd, but I thought he worked his ass off in this match. Really just, going around, tearing it up. Drew, like I said, such a, athletic freak in the ring. Like, just what he can do as a big man, throwing guys around. He'll Tree of Woe kind of style on the rope, lift himself up, his core strength to pick up people and throw them over his head. No, it was just great. Kevin Owens, shout out Kevin Owens, wearing the Dusty Rhodes shirt and had a red elbow pad as well. So shout out to Dusty, who created War Games. Even Cody Rhodes tweeted about it too. Cody said it's just cool to see that his dad's vision is still going to this day, his influence. Which, by the way, I hope, when they do War Games next year, I hope Cody Rhodes is in the match. He needs to be in a War Games match at some point.
Gotta be Team Rhodes. And I hope it's full of NXT guys that Dusty really loved. Like, I hope we get Dusty's kids, you know what I mean? Or at least people. I know there's probably, I don't know how many's left. I know that there's a lot, right? Because the main roster is full of NXT talent from back then. But get some of the guys and girls, who can go in there and represent Dusty. I feel like this War Games for the men and the women, I just want to say real quick, this was the beginning of something great we could have. This was the beginning. This
on a regular basis.
This is going to get good as time goes on. We're going to get real war, real teams, real warfare, right? Like real, real stuff that doesn't involve the main title or the main, you know what I mean? It's the main storyline. It's going to be a match that could really help elevate, some people.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. As even Triple H said in the press conference afterwards, like, he wants these special matches, gimmick matches, not to be the focus of a pay-per-view, like the theme of the name of a pay-per-view, but brought out when it's appropriate time to settle a feud, and that's something you and I talked about many times in the past. So we'll see War Games again, but I'm sure he'll bring it back when it's it's the right call for a feud. Now, I don't, if I remember correctly, I don't think he said if it was going to be Survivor Series again, but we'll see how it goes. So, but like Hell in a Cell, all that stuff, he'll still do them, but he'll do them when it's appropriate, and it'll just be a part of another existing pay-per-view name. So I'm all for that. But no, like I said, the back and forth, the main story here was, Sami Zayn trying to prove his worth to the Bloodline, that he's loyal, that they could trust him. So it was more about just him and just what he can do. He accidentally took the super kick from Jey at one point. So I was like, oh my God, like, Jey is pissed at him, even though he accidentally kicked him. He didn't look too sad that he did it. And then I love when the Brawling Brutes and everyone had the Bloodline in the ropes and they're all taking turns hitting their chests like 10, 20 times in unison. There was one point where who was it? Kevin or Sammy broke up the pin. Kevin was going to go for the victory, but Sammy stopped the ref from counting 3. So it's like Sammy right there already turning on Kevin Owens, preventing him from the team winning. And then at the very end, let's talk about just the ending real quick. So Usos hit the double super kicks on Ridge Holland. Then Reigns hit him with a spear through the table. Owens got a stunner off on Solo. Then Reigns broke up the pin. So then Sammy looked at Roman, and he was in the corner, and he gave him the nod, and then Sammy went running across the ring. First Kevin Owens hit the low blow on, Sami Zayn hit the low blow on Kevin Owens, and I was like, oh my God, he really turning on his best friend. And then Roman gave the signal, and he did the haluva kick on Kevin Owens in the corner, and then Kevin Owens fell down into Sammy's arms, dropped him down, and then Jey hit the big frog splash and picked up the win. So it was almost like Sammy proved his worth, taking out his former best friend in front of Roman, and then let Jey, the guy he's been beefing with, pick up the victory for the team. So it really solidified his spot. So yeah, great finish there. Then Jey and Kevin hugged it out. Jey was like, "All right, I can trust you, man. You're with me." So they hugged it out, celebrate. But then they took that group photo, and Roman and Jey were kind of eyeballing Sammy. So I don't know, man. Like, what's gonna happen next? Like, I know we're running long on time here, but it's gonna be interesting to see where they go from here with the bloodline and stuff. I know there's rumors right now that it's gonna be maybe Sammy and Roman at
Elimination Chamber.
Kevin Owens and Roman at Royal Rumble. I love this storyline here where it's going. It's got a whole new layers now. There's a lot of people thought that the Bloodline was going to turn on Sammy at Survivor Series. I'm like, no, that's too soon, man. Do it later. Stretch this out. I think this story beat here adds a whole new set of layers that can stretch it out. Like, this storyline should be carried all the way through WrestleMania, not end it now. To me, I feel like this is just the end of the first act. The first act was just Sammy proving his worth to the Bloodline. The second act is them, working in unison, being all buddy-buddy. And then at the end of the second act is when they turn on Sammy, beat him up. And then the third act is Sammy and Kevin Owens getting revenge on the Bloodline and ending their tag team title reign, the Usos. That's why I think the 3-part act is here in this story. This is just the end of Act 1. So there's a lot more story to go. So I'm all excited to see where it goes. Hopefully the turn happens, maybe at some point in December, some point in January. I'm kind of curious what's going to be their reasoning to turn on Sammy. Let me ask you this. One idea I've been hearing, or people just guessing, is, Roman, even though Sammy told him the truth and, spilled the beans, hey, I've seen a lot of mob movies and TV shows, and I just watched Sons of Anarchy and The Godfather. Roman saw that Sammy's like being loyal to him right now, but he turned on his former best friend to align himself with the Bloodline. If anything, he can't trust him because Sammy's willing to please whoever he feels the most important from him in that moment. He's not loyal to like his original blood, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
It's like
he was his best friend.
He was his best friend. Like, you turn on your best
friend in the back. Exactly.
Why can't you find someone else better than the Bloodline? Are you going to turn on us then to get to that? So this moment, I think Roman can see that as like, whoa, he turned on his own family to stay loyal to us. How we know he won't turn on us at some point to go somewhere else? So that could be in Roman's mind already. Like, I don't trust him. Like, and that, I think that goes back to that hug where he hugged him and still kind of looked pissed off. The Godfather hugs. I think that's where they might be going with all this. Is like, even though Roman's playing Sammy, but deep down he doesn't trust him because of how he handled his own best friend. And it's like, you don't even trust your best friend like that? I don't know if I can trust you in my family. So I think that's where they might be going. So we shall see. All right. But overall, WarGames was so much fun. Monday Night Raw, real quick. I know we're running long on time here. Great to see Becky Lynch back, kick off the show in the crowd. Bayley confront her and Damage CTRL attack Becky, go through the merch. So it looks like we're going to see Becky and Bayley have a program now. Is that something you're cool with? For the two of them?
Oh yeah, definitely. And this opening was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was a refresh. I felt like it was something that was needed for Raw. We've been seeing very different, very clever openings for Raw, and Triple H he continues the role of doing something new and fresh to start the show. So this was great, especially in a no commercial, first hour.
Yeah, and then we saw Rhea Ripley versus Mia Yim, but that ultimately turned into Judgment Day versus the OC. So it looks like, this rivalry is not over for right now, so it's going to keep going for a little bit. Now, I know we didn't get like a 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series match this year, so I felt like this was maybe kind of like a make good, a 4-on-4, but it wasn't elimination style though, if I remember correctly off the top of my head.
No.
Let's see. But then Judgment Day did pick up the win over the OC, though. Rhea Ripley hit the Riptide on Mia Yim. So great to see the Street Profits back on Raw. Fun match with Alpha Academy. Always good to see them. Probably the big thing, though, so a little bit of fallout of the Bloodline here. So the Bloodline were in the ring. No Roman. It was the other 4 guys. Sammy's more or less celebrating, happy. He's part of the group, and he's like, we're all on the same page now. Jey and Jimmy are like, yeah, man, you're one of us. We're all good now. But Kevin Owens comes out and kind of confronts them again. He more or less just tells Sammy, hey, listen, I get it. Why'd you turn on me? I did it on you so many times over the years. I get it. Yep. But just know we're done. We're no longer friends, all that stuff. And he says, I'm turning my attention to you, Jey, now. So what do you think about this whole segment here that ultimately led to the main event?
It was good. I felt like it was another home run of a segment. Not too much, but just enough to progress the story. Obviously, get Kevin involved. It gives a reason for Kevin to stay involved, right? Without him and Sammy having to have like a friendly interaction or anything. Because now you're, like you say, if you're messing with Sammy now, you messing with the Usos, right? And you can obviously, I have a feeling that Sammy's going to continue to try and make Kevin's life hell now because Kevin dumped him as a friend, right? So at any moment, it's like Sammy could now get both Jimmy, Jey, and Solo to beat up on Kevin whenever he wants to now, you know? So something to keep an eye on for sure.
The main event, though, we saw, Kevin versus Jey. Very fun match here. Ultimately, Kevin Owens picks up the win with the stunner. And it kind of reminded me of like Austin. Kevin Owens right now is like a lone wolf. It's him versus everyone. And, it's him versus the Bloodline. It's very much how like Austin would be against, the corporation or the ministry. You know what I mean? So I kind of like Kevin right now on his own trying to fight off the Bloodline. And it's a numbers game. He's not going to win that, but he's going to give a fighting chance. And that's going to probably going to be interesting to see how Sammy, that affects him emotionally. See his best friend constantly get beat up by the Bloodline and stuff.
Yeah.
And how's that going to affect him emotionally? So that's something to keep your eye on. The other big thing just talk about is Austin Theory, your new U.S. champion that you're so
That's
happy
right.
about. Two-time. Comes out and him and Seth Rollins, go back and forth here. And, Austin just kind of reminds everyone that, Seth comes out and confronts him and wants to challenge him to a fight. And Theory said, well, I'm the champion. We're going to do it on my time. And then Seth called him a kid. And that pisses off Theory because Theory, going back to his promo a couple weeks ago, he's tired of being viewed as the young guy, the kid. He's tired of being called the future. He wants to be the now. He wants to be the top guy on Raw. So Seth is kind of getting under his skin by calling him kid. So what'd you think about this whole segment here in the direction of the U.S. title?
It was good. I feel like you're continuing what you've already been doing with Seth Rollins. He's white hot right now, and again, Austin Theory, you continue to develop his character, his persona, his mean streak. This time he's doing it with some gold now, so he's gonna have a big target on his back now. He poked the bear. Now he's gotta answer that door when someone comes knocking, and it looks like Seth Rollins ain't going nowhere. But see, Seth Rollins is gonna play mind games. He's gonna try and get in your head. He's gonna and Theory, again, he's so young, right? Like that's something he's got to learn, especially being the guy, being the top guy, being a champion. That you have to stay poised. You can't, you just can't let anyone like those little games. Don't call me a kid. Like you got to let that stuff roll off your back. So I'm very interested to see, which direction are they gonna. Is he gonna snap? right? Like, is he going to just destroy Seth Rollins? What are they going to do? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. So no pay-per-view until, as of right now, till Royal Rumble, end of January. So 2 months.
That's different.
So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of emphasis on these great matches, pay-per-view quality matches on free TV on Raw and SmackDown. So you could do
maybe we even get Royal Rumble qualifier matches.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We could see Theory and Seth storyline feud take place on Raw, main event some episodes, over on SmackDown. Maybe Roman and Sheamus can go at it. You got Gunther versus maybe Strowman, Gunther versus the winner of the SmackDown, the World Cup tournament. So there's a lot of great matches and storylines that they can do to fill up time, pay-per-view quality main events on free TV. So I think Raw and SmackDown over the next 2 months is going to be really exciting. And I think not having a pay-per-view actually helps episodes of Raw and SmackDown moving forward. So
you don't have to rush anything either.
Exactly. And congrats, Dexter Lumis. Now got a WWE contract after defeating The Miz tonight. So
finally.
Handing out Miz's money to the crowd, little kids getting $100 bills, and Gargano helping him out with it. So good stuff. All right, let's start wrapping things up. Thanks for tuning in for a very long episode. Brian, where can the Kliqsters find you online?
Kliqsters, you guys can find me at BrianTronic on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Baby Huey. Follow me on Facebook at Baby Huey Official, Twitter and Instagram at Baby Huey83. For everything else, at In The Kliq, subscribe to In The Kliq, wherever you get your podcast at. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, inthekliq@gmail.com. And on that note, let's go home. And that's the bottom line, because Huey said so.